Hey y'all, welcome to Annual Planning on a big ass calendar. In just a minute, I'm going to show you the materials that I love to use. But first, let's talk a little bit about why the heck we're doing this. I worked with a resilience coach last year and the year before. Her name is Lorca Smetana, and I am happy to share her information. She's fantastic. But one of the things that she really worked with me on was just like making my life easier and growing capacity and really checking in with myself to learn how much capacity I actually have. She uses a beautiful analogy just about really kind of a body of water. I won't go into her analogy. I think if you check her out in her resources, you'll see it. But if you're a body of water and what you allow in, where your water source is coming from, all of that impacts your whole life. As a working mom, I get it. Our capacity is sometimes, unpredictable. We might have a day where we have an important workshop to host and we're working from home because school's closed for our kid or something like that. So if we can plan in these ways to make our life a little bit easier, and if we can really be intentional about what we want our lives to look like, we can actually really improve just our overall happiness. So I want to welcome you all and thank you all for coming. This is going to be a little bit about life, a little bit about business, and it's an overview, but you can dig in as much as you want, and I would love to see the lists that you have. So before we get started, get a piece of paper or Post-its or whatever you can write with, because I'm going to ask you to kind of pause the video, take a minute to really think about things and write things down. And then we're going to transfer it to this big ass calendar. It might make sense for you to really look at the calendar and then go ahead and do that. And you can use erasable markers depending on the calendar that you buy. But I just really think having a huge visual representation of your whole year really does help you think about your goals constantly. You need to have it in a place where you can see it. And so we're going to talk about a couple different categories of things that you can map out for yourself. Are you ready to do it? Let's go. Before you get started, I've got a list of awesome supplies for you. So in the content for this workshop, there are a couple links. The calendar that I'm using today are these individual month colored calendars. That way I can find a wall where they work and I will put them all up on that wall. I want to see the whole year. The reason that you want the whole year is that at any point you can take a glance at it and you can say, hey, my June is actually feeling really slammed. So this request that I just got to speak at said conference, I'm not going to do it. It's really important. And then it also just helps you understand like, hey, I have 3 months to reach this goal, or this is coming up. It really does help you quantify the energy that you have now, the energy that you're going to have. I have a baby due in May, so when I'm looking at like everything I have to do before May, I can look at the entire year. Real quickly, I'm going to take you to the calendar that I used last year. So hold on a second. Okay, here she is. So this is what I'm talking about with the big calendar. This is the only wall I could fit it on. So this is why this year I got those individual ones, but you'll see I have color codes. So what I recommend for you is that you can grab the supplies that work best for you visually and for planning. You can use Post-it notes, you can use dry erase markers, you can use chalk markers, you can use permanent marker. This is all permanent marker. So this one cannot be reused. The ones that I got this year are not annually specific, so I'll be able to use them for future years. So I'm going to use chalk markers for that one and some stickers and some Post-its. Okay, so before I get to actually writing on these, I'm going to take a minute, I'm going to take a breath, I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to really review last year. So let's get to that. Okay, welcome back. So year in review, one of the things that we're going to be thinking about is like, how did 2023 go for us? What did it look like? What was our mindset like? What did we spend our time on? What were we aligned with? What were we not aligned with? What kind of conflicts did we have? Did we have time for our marketing efforts? How were our operations and our sales and our messaging? What about our audience? Did we actually work on projects that we want to be working on? When you look at your overall business goals, did you hit any of those? Did you even track your business goals, right? Like all of this is really important. So thinking about your year in review helps you really plan the future year, right? So let's rate your year. So let's, on the personal side, I'll go through these and then I'm going to say pause and you're going to really write it down. You're going to like really focus on it, take some time, meditate on it. But if you rate your year on your balance, like work versus life versus health versus family, whatever that looks like, and your capacity, were you burnt out most of the year? Did you feel pretty good about the energy levels that you had? Were you in go-getter mode? Did you give yourself enough space? That family time versus work time, I want to give yourself like 1 to 10. How'd you do? Goal setting and actually executing those goals. How did you do? And were you aligned with your values? You, as a member of the Vault, have a core values exercise. And so if you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. And then you can really define what your values are. So if you don't have those in years future, you'll be able to really grade yourself on that. On the business side, I want you to give yourself, kind of 1 to 10. These are numbers, right? So it's, for the most part, right, you can really give yourself a rating. What were your sales like? Did you spend a ton of time selling things that were really, really small and you didn't get a lot of margin? Did you reach for the stars and put all your eggs in one basket? How many did you have feast and famine months? Probably, right? What were your operations like? Give yourself a 1 to 10. Do you have automation set up? Were your contracts in order? Was it smooth? Did you grow your list? I'm a big proponent of your email list. If Facebook shuts down tomorrow, it's gone. So what about your list? Did you grow it at all? Did you give people an opportunity to opt in and value to opt in? Marketing in general, like I'm going to give myself like a C- here because I was so busy creating for clients and then creating this course that I launched, and I was in beta mode, that I really didn't have the space and time to just consistently post or consistently blog or consistently put any kind of other content out. It was like all or nothing. Pricing. How did you feel about the things that you priced? What kind of feedback would you give yourself? What have others given you? I've been told I need to charge more for my things. So I used to charge pretty industry standard, and then I started doing a lot of like friends and family stuff because I had just had a baby and working for a lot of nonprofits, and they didn't have that budget. So I have to kind of reset my own mind and get myself back up to speed where I was. Expenses. How were your expenses this year versus years past? Are you really clear on your write-offs? Are you really clear on and some, maybe your expenses were higher this year. Like for me, I had a lot of continuing education this year, and it was really beneficial to me, but those things were expensive. And I also hired a couple contractors and VAs this year. So the team of one, I needed some more help because the hours that I work it's just not feasible. So my expenses were a little bit higher this year. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing if I look at projections for next year, but let's rate where those are. And then client experiences, like did I have a lovely time with the clients that I attracted, and did I get good reviews for them? Did I even ask them for reviews? What was that like? And in terms of like project timelines and scopes, did we have a lot of scope creep? There are 2 projects right now that I'm trying to like wrap up, and the timeline seems to be really, really dragging, which then eliminates my capacity to sell and to get that pipeline moving. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a lower grade on that one too. So take a pause. Each of these categories, some of your own categories, give yourself a quick rating and just think about and maybe jot some notes down. All right, the next thing we are going to map based on what we rated are the important business dates. So this is going to be, you're going to be inspired by everything that you just thought about and wrote down from last year. We're going to start mapping on our big ass calendar. And the first thing I want you to map are the very, very important like governmental dates. Okay. So here we go. So the first thing, let me move my face for you. So the first thing that we need to think about are these quarterly tax deadlines. Go ahead and put those on your calendar. Go ahead and maybe you put a month in advance to just like make sure you have that budget. maybe you have a goal by January 10th that you have a separate account in your business accounts for those taxes. Like it's just automatic. Maybe you set up an automation where it automatically funnels 20% or 25% into another account, so you know that you've got that tax money ready to go. That's what I do. So go ahead and write down those quarterly tax deadlines. Monthly reconciliation, something I would recommend. Some people do it weekly, but maybe it's like the first Monday of every month, or maybe it's the first of every month, whatever your work schedule looks like, where you get into QuickBooks or wherever you're managing your books and you make sure everything is clear, everything is categorized, all your rules are set up, and it's reconciled. One of the reasons I hired a VA was to do this for me because it's been several months since I've done mine. So if you can't do it, then maybe the goal is to hire a VA, but still write those dates down, because you might have to get your VA or bookkeeper some of your statements. You might have to update some spreadsheets. But either way, you want to review after you reconcile those books. Where are you? Where are you in terms of your overall goals for the year, for the month? And what do you need to do? What changes do you need to make? So it's really important that you're looking at your books pretty regularly. So write those dates down. If you want to have a business color or category, you might have blue as like the business. So you might use a blue marker on your big ass calendar. You might have blue Post-it notes, stickers, whatever works for you visually. But that's what I recommend. Any conferences and events that you want to attend or maybe even host, putting those on your calendar. And maybe there are some other additional dates that come out of that, like book plane tickets or write the curriculum, something like that. So working backwards. Any product launches or promotions that you're going to have within your business, going ahead and mapping those. So maybe it's the actual launch date, and then again, working backwards. So the site would need to be live and reviewed by X date. Having all of that out there on your calendar. If you're like in service or like subscription, whatever you're selling, if you kind of look at like, hey, when do contracts renew? When are my biggest contracts renew, if they renew? Or what are like customer or client milestones that are going to bleed over from last year, or I've got people booked already for next year? Because if one maybe bumps back a little bit, then you may have a gap. I have a great friend who's in construction, and I myself kind of screwed her for Q1 because I'm waiting on some payments and I had a project for her that I wanted her to do, and in my office, and I had counted on a project being done. I had counted on the final payment coming through, and that's what I earmarked for that project. And it's late, so I need to push back. So for her, she can look at her annual calendar and say, okay, now I have a hole. I can either move these projects up, I can fit her in somewhere else, like if you have these things in the pipeline. And then employee evaluation periods. You might have a team where you need to make sure you're connecting with them. I have a really good friend in the people operations space that has a lot of really great thoughts on this. I think that you should be checking in with your employees more than like every 6 months if you have them. But this could be clients too, like checking in with clients. How often do you want to do that? And so maybe you map out like the first Tuesday of every month, you're going to look at these types of things. So creating a date and a cadence for all of these things and putting those on your calendar. So I'm going to pause now, write down any other business dates that you need, really be thinking about this, and then with your sticker or your Post-it or your blue marker, go ahead and map those on your big ass calendar. Next up, goals. So you have your business dates, and maybe you already added some personal dates too, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want goals to be a good priority as well. So you have business goals. Maybe there's books that you want to read. How many books do you want to read? So maybe you're mapping out like, I know I want to read these 3 books in Q1. Fitness and health. Maybe you say, you know what, every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to work with a trainer, or I'm going to use this app, or I'm going to go for a run. Like putting a little R on your calendar. Like you're going to go ahead and put that out there so that this is the cadence. And maybe like, oh, hey, I'm going to be traveling that month actually. So what do I need to prepare for? lifestyle goals that you might have, any travel goals that you might have, or like let's say every quarter I know I want to travel, or let's say every month I want to make sure my kid gets to play with his cousins. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. And maybe I have a date, or maybe I have kind of a window on a post-it that I can move around. And then maybe you have personal goals that you really want to make sure that you're hitting outside of the above. Life. These are the things that we know happen all the time. So holidays come every year. So is it possible that you in June buy about half of your Christmas presents or make your list? Is it possible that in August or September you go ahead and get everybody's addresses for those holiday cards? Is there a birthday card scheduler? Is there an app that you can use? Can you go ahead and purchase like a big bulk of birthday cards and you have them addressed and you have a folder on your desk and these got to be mailed every month? Like maybe you do this monthly. Are there audiobooks that can help you reach that books to read goal? Is there a present closet that you can have? So like we have birthday parties all the time. So are there some really cool things that I know Everett loved, that I know his friends are going to love, and we're going to be going to their birthday parties? Can I have cards, wrapping paper, tissue paper stocked in a closet with some if there's a last minute situation, we got to run. We don't have to run to Target to get the present. It's already in there. Maybe there's some candles and teacher gifts and host gifts and things like that. Maybe there's some wine in there where you can grab it and go if you're running late and you don't have time to go to the store. And then maybe there's some things that you can do to prep for your guests. So maybe there's a closet that you have with their specific linens, or maybe there's a grocery list or a meal prep delivery that you schedule for a certain time when you're having guests. Those kinds of things. Maybe there are things that you can put on subscriptions. We can make our life a little bit easier, but going ahead and mapping everything that you know that's going to happen, like back to school, supplies that are needed, that helps you with budget, life, capacity, time, etc. So one thing that I just want to note is it's either hell yes or no. I have a lot of folks that say yes to too many things, myself included. And so if you kind of have a rule this year that you check in with yourself, you look at your calendar, you say, June is really crowded. I'm not going to schedule anything else for May or July. Maybe you are looking at that overall calendar and you're like, wow, that's a really expensive month. I need to make sure I'm putting some money aside for that month way, way earlier. Maybe you are looking at your big ass calendar and you're saying, you know what, these things that I put on the list, I actually don't feel that excited about them, so I'm not going to do it. Important stuff, right? So it's either hell yes, here's my She-Wolf reference, or no. I'm very excited about doing it, aligns with my values, it helps my business and my life, or it doesn't. So maybe you can eliminate some things from your calendar as well. That's it, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me. I know that was quick and crazy. I am going to be working on my big ass calendar and I'll take a picture of it when I'm done.